everyone, welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to look at a hack attack known as SQL Injection, and we're also going to look at how to protect our system from that kind of hack attack. So in my login page here for my social data system, I'm going to paste in some SQL that I found on the internet, and let's try and log in. Note, I'm not going to enter a password. I'm just going to enter this weird looking username. This is SQL, by the way. Whoa, look. It looks like I am now logged in. Okay, which means I would have the privileges to go to some of these operations and start maybe deleting or updating data in the database table. Okay, so basically I've just hacked into this social data website as probably as an admin. Okay, now let's look at how that happened. When I entered that weird looking SQL into the username input box, we grabbed that data and we ran this SQL statement against it. And that, do you remember that username? I'm just going to replace that with the text that I entered. Ooh. Look what impact that has to this line of SQL. It comments out the last bit of SQL, so that's just ignored. That becomes a comment. And it replaced the other stuff with select everything from users where username is empty, or, we've got a bit of or logic here, the role is admin. Okay, now if I go into my users table, this is the users table, and we do have somebody who has the role of admin. In fact, it's Mr. Moosey. So basically, I'm logging in here as Mr. Moosey. Okay, that is SQL injection. Now, if you try this with your system, but this example of the SQL injection code doesn't work for you, just do some research and you should come up with some SQL that works for your system. So let's look at how to protect our page or our code from that kind of injection. Okay, the trick is, let me just put this in as a comment, only accept strings as input. Right? Don't accept SQL, which is what we did here. We just input some SQL. Only accept strings. So that's the trick that we're going to look at as a solution to this problem. Okay, so let me just get rid of that, and we're just going to go back to the original code. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to, instead of immediately generating some SQL here, what we're going to do is create something called a prepared statement. Okay, so let's create a variable here. I'm just going to call it statement. Doesn't matter what you call it. And we're going to use our connection to prepare some SQL. We're not going to execute it yet. We're just going to prepare some SQL. And the SQL we're going to prepare is select everything from users, it's a small case, isn't it, where the username is not determined yet and the password is equally not determined yet. We're just going to use question mark placeholders for these as we prepare our statement. Now, what the trick that we're going to apply to this statement is, if I can remember the code, we're going to call a function called bind parameters, and this is the magic. What we're going to do is we're going to bind these two posted variables to these parameters. So that's pretty straightforward. The first parameter, which is this question mark here, is going to be our username variable that was posted. And the second one, this second question mark, is going to be bound to the password. Okay. Now you might be saying, well, what's the difference between this and the previous way that we ran the SQL statement? Well, let me show you the magic. What we're going to tell this statement is, or this function, please take this first bit of data and only accept it as a string, okay? And this second bit of data here, the password, only accept it as a string, okay? So what that's going to do is, let's imagine that we're only accepting a string into that little block of code there. So let's paste the SQL injected stuff again. Now, because this is only being seen as a string and not as SQL, it doesn't have the same impact on this line of SQL. Okay, we're no longer commenting out the and etc., etc. Okay, so that bit of magic there solves the problem. Okay, now that we've done that binding of parameters, let's execute the statement. Oh, and while we're executing the statement, let's grab the result. So we're going to execute the statement, grab the result, and then, so we don't need to do that anymore. We don't need to do that anymore. Okay, get the posted data, prepare a statement, bind those parameters and make sure that we're only accepting them as strings, and then execute the statement, grab the result, and then as before, we can then process the result. Okay, so that is one technique for protecting our login page against SQL injection. Let's see if it works. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go to I'm going to log out. Let's try and log in again. Let's paste in that SQL. There we go. There's some SQL. Let's try and get in. Hey, invalid credentials. Okay, so there's a very brief introduction to SQL injection and how to protect your web pages from it.